My book, Emilie Davis, Her Life in Her Own Words, is a deconstruction of 3 years worth of diaries written by Emilie F. Davis, a free black woman during the 19th century. So not only do I include a transcription of all 3 years of the diaries, I also reconstruct her life as close to what it might have been like, what she might have encountered when she walked down the street, thinking about some of the sermons she might have heard when she sat in a particular church underneath a certain pastor. So I tried to be true to her story with adding a little bit of my own style of writing so that it is more readable and it's more interesting, I think. She's both a domestic and a seamstress, so she worked for a number of white families in the 1st Ward and the 12th Ward. She lived in the 7th Ward. She's a seamstress, so she makes wedding dresses and bonnets at home. And she's living out her life on this canvas in Philadelphia. So it's interesting to see what else was happening during the Civil War outside of the war and all the tension around enslavement. Well, I think because Emilie is only the 4th known primary source written by a free black woman during this time, that in and of itself makes it an extremely important part of history. It definitely should have an impact because it should be read in history classes. That as we talk about the black community during that time, here's another resource, here's another primary source that can be used to really begin to deconstruct people's experiences. In the greater Baltimore community, I think any time that you introduce a new voice into a historical canon, that it's interesting and that people should want to pay attention. During this time period in history, from 1863 to 1865, there were a lot of monumental moments that happened in American history. From the release of the Emancipation Proclamation by President Lincoln that happened on January 1st, 1863, where Emilie talks about it was a grand jubilee, and she talks about the churches being open and going to parties and celebrations because they understood what the release of that document meant. During this time, you also had the release of the 13th Amendment, you had the ending of the Civil War. There were a number of interesting events. I think the one that struck me the most is when Emilie wrote about when President Lincoln was assassinated. Monday, April 17th, 1865. Today was a sad day, quite for a general holiday, but serious. It is to be a day of mourning. I went to Mr. Lively's, then to school. Working was not very likely. So here's a black woman at approximately 19 years of age who writes every day. She writes about her life and about her boyfriend. She talks about doing her hair and about working. And it was so interesting because it's so ordinary, what they call the daily repetition. She just talks about the ordinary things happening, but at an extraordinary time in history. Who else is talking about life during the Civil War? She was also a genteel woman of that time. She took guitar lessons and learned how to play the piano. Like, that's interesting to me. We don't know the full extent of what happened during the Civil War in different communities. Emilie Davis' story fills one of those gaps because it tells us what was happening in the young, free black community. They were not talking about the war in every conversation. They were not selling goods to raise money for the colored troops. She was living her life. She was working. She was having relationships. She was going to the wharf and getting ice cream. She was every day. She was more similar to us than different. And that's why her story is unique and why I think it should be read and shared. It's a new voice. And we should also welcome a new voice and accept a new voice into the historical canon of black women.